Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, it's still morning. It's Saturday morning, February 22nd. It's 11:13 local time here. It's time for yet another TAT. Can you believe it? TAT 19. I've got three things I want to talk about, and I'm going to get started on it right after this. Hey! Roger! Rocket Chick Roger! Hello there. Okay, so I got three important issues to talk about that I'm going to share with you. I've not talked much about these in the past. I've kind of, some ways, tried to avoid the issues, but I'm telling you, this third one that I'm going to talk about, you're going to want to sit down and listen to, okay? That's about banking here in Ecuador. The other two issues have to do with Social Security, and the other one that I don't know if anybody's ever talked about this before is the Americans with Disabilities Act. Do we have something like that in Ecuador? What if somebody wrote to me and says that they have a disability and are concerned about their mobility once they get here? And so I looked into it. Now, as many of you know, I'm a big-time fan of AI and ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT so much, I finally gave a name to my engine that I use, and that's Darby. I have all the confidence in the world in the information that I get from Darby. I know that there are some people that don't believe in this AI stuff and don't want to hear it. And if that's your case, move on. Just go listen to somebody else. Listen to somebody else's bullshit if you want to. You can go to social media and get all that you want. So the first question, and by the way, I've got these three documents here, okay? I've got, I've typed up all these notes from my research, and I'm going to keep these here. I've saved them as PDFs. If you want to see these, you want to read them, send me an email. Okay, and I'll send you either one of these PDFs that you want, okay, and you can read it for yourself. I would imagine that most people that are coming here probably want to know a lot about the banking, and that's going to take up the most of this video, so I'm saving it for last. All right, so I'm not charging you for this either, okay? Somebody told me the other day, they called me up and wanted to talk to me about living here and stuff, and said I should be charging for that, and I just don't think it's right. As I'm sharing information that I get, and I'm sharing it with you, and I'm not charging for it. So the first one, and I'm going to read a lot of this to you, okay? I'm not going to read everything word for word. I'm going to read what I think is necessary, and then I'll summarize where I think it's necessary, and then we'll move on, okay? My first question to Darby, I always have to assign a role to Darby to let him know what he's going to be doing today. So I'm giving you a good example of how I use GPT. You are my political journalist. I've heard rumors that the U.S. Social Security Administration wants to stop paying benefits to expats living in foreign countries. I personally don't believe that, and I think it's false propaganda or fake news at best. I believe the reality of this claim is that the Social Security Administration simply wants to assure that expats are receiving benefits in a foreign land, that they need to report their existence on a regular basis so that the SSA knows they are still alive. So I said, please explain the truth behind this claim. And Darby responded by saying, your skepticism about the rumors is well-founded. The Social Security Administration does not have a policy to cease benefits for U.S. citizens residing abroad. However, to ensure the continuation of benefits, the SSA requires beneficiaries living overseas to periodically verify their status. If you think about this, folks, I mean, we've all heard the horror stories recently about Doge and how much fraud and waste they're finding, and some of that is in the Social Security Administration paying benefits to people that are dead. So why wouldn't you want them to know that you're alive? Because if at worst, your benefits will get suspended until they're satisfied that you actually do exist. To continue, the verification requirements, there is proof of life form, okay? Proof of life form, just like you see right here. Proof of life form is Form 7162. The SSA sends this form to beneficiaries outside the U.S. every 2 years. Even though I've not received one, I've been here 4 years now and I have not received anything. It's essential to complete and return it promptly to avoid suspension of benefits. Some expatriates choose to submit this form annually as a precaution. If the form is not received, I think what he's saying here is if you haven't received it, it can be downloaded from the SSA website. Mailing the completed form to the SSA or the nearest U.S. Embassy or consulate is advisable. Country-specific restrictions. While U.S. citizens can generally receive benefits abroad, there are exceptions. The SSA prohibits payments to certain countries, including Cuba and North Korea. It's crucial to consult the SSA's guidelines or use their payments abroad screening tool to determine eligibility based on your country of residence. So in summary, the SSA continues to provide benefits to eligible expatriates, ensuring compliance with verification requirements and understanding country-specific regulations will help maintain uninterrupted benefits payments. So I went online and started looking for this form, Form 7162. You can Google it, it's all over the place, you know, but there is no, well, I wanted to find an online form that you can fill out online. The only place that I found where that was offered was dochub.com. DocHub, D-O-C-H-U-B. But you got to pay for it. So what I would do, and what I'm going to do, is download the form, fill it out, and give it to somebody that's going to the States and have them mail it to the Social Security. Excuse me. But, wow, that was a good one. That was part of some of my breakfast just almost came up. Excuse me. Swallow that back down. That was a good breakfast this morning. But I couldn't find any easy way to do this. But all it is, they just want to know you're alive, okay? This rumor that, you know, because of Trump or Doge or whatever, there are people panicking thinking that they're not going to get their Social Security benefits because they're living here in Ecuador or Venezuela or wherever, okay? So if you have any questions about that, leave them in the comments. If you want to read the document yourself, you can look it up on ChatGPT yourself, or you can send me an email and I'll send you this PDF, okay? All right, on to the next thing. Somebody wrote to me this morning or yesterday morning and told me that they have a bit of a mobility issue because of a personal disability. I'm not going to tell you, you know, specifics, but I understood, you know. So it's like somebody coming here with a walker or something, or somebody that's in a wheelchair. And you asked me about, you know, are there any problems with mobility issues, you know. I kind of joke about it because I did a little short video a couple years ago of a wheelchair ramp. Well, here it is. You can see it for yourself. It's very short. And as you can see, this ramp runs up to this little wall. So that ramp did go to the sidewalk. But a couple years ago when we were getting torrential downpours here, they decided to put a concrete wall up, I guess to keep the water from flowing down the ramp. But anyway, I thought, well, that's stupid, you know, and it still is, and it's still there. You got to climb over it to go down the ramp. So I got to thinking about the Americans with Disabilities Act, you know, ADA, and I wanted to know if they have something like that here. Well, they don't really have an ADA, but here's what I did find out. I said, you're the expert on Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. Do you know if there are any ADA organizations in Ecuador? That was my question to Darby. And he said, while the Americans with Disabilities Act is a U.S. law and doesn't have direct jurisdiction in Ecuador, there are several organizations within Ecuador dedicated to supporting individuals with disabilities and advocating for their rights. Here are some notable organizations. Now, I'm not going to read all this, okay? There's National Council for Disability Equity, that's CONADIS, C-O-N-A-D-I-S. There's National Federation of Ecuadorians with Physical Disabilities. All these have an abbreviation, FENEDIF. There's the Foundation for the Integration of Special Children, FINE. That was established in 1992. The Federation of NGOs for Disabilities in Ecuador, that's FENODIS, F-E-N-O-D-I-S. And then there's the Ibero American Network of NGOs of People with Disabilities and their families. That's RADIS, R-I-A-D-I-S. It's based in Guayaquil. You want to know the specifics about these, you request the PDF and I'll be happy to send it to you. He went on to say that these organizations play a crucial role in advocating for the rights and inclusions of individuals with disabilities in Ecuador. What I didn't find here, I didn't really find the answer to my question. I wanted to know, is there a requirement, in building codes for ramps, automatic doors, ease of access, ease of accessibility, entryways, and that kind of stuff like we have in the States. I grew up with a father that was disabled. He was in a wheelchair from an industrial accident and broke his back and was paralyzed from the waist down. And he was instrumental in getting wheelchair ramps put in around the University of Texas when he was going there in the mid-60s. And he didn't have these ADA laws to back him up. He went to the administration and explained, hey, I'm sitting out in the street in a wheelchair and don't have access to the building where my classes are. And they started putting ramps in. So I went on to say, are there any laws or policies in Ecuador that mandate accessibility requirements for people with disabilities? For example, requirements for wheelchair ramps, wheelchair crossings, easy open automatic doors, etc. And went on to say, Ecuador has implemented several laws and policies to ensure accessibility for people with disabilities, mandating features such as wheelchair ramps, accessible crossings, and automatic doors. And then he went on to talk about key legislative frameworks include the Constitution of Ecuador for 2008. I think that's the one that Correa created. The Organic Law on Disabilities, that was enacted in 2012. And then there was the Norma Ecuatoriana de la Construcción. Now, that one caught my attention because it said on universal accessibility, this chapter establishes technical design requirements to ensure universal accessibility in built environments. It mandates that all public and private constructions providing services to the public incorporate features like wheelchair ramps, accessible crossings, and easy open automatic doors. So there was the answer to my question. Okay, so I hope that helps. I'll tell you one thing, folks, if you come here, you're going to find if you come here and you're disabled, especially you have mobility issues, you're going to find some areas that's going to be difficult. We don't have the best sidewalks around town. There are some good sidewalks here, but like in this area here where I'm at right now, if I was in a wheelchair and I wanted to go to the mall, I'd pretty much have to wheel myself in the street. When I first came here, I was walking back from the mall one day, and I saw this dude, he's an Ecuadorian guy in a wheelchair. I thought one wheel was about to fall off of it, and he was trying to push himself up the street. I pushed that guy all the way from the circle down by the mall, all the way up to here, close to where I live, and down to the Mega Kiwi hardware store. Just about killed me. That guy must have weighed 280 pounds, and I think one of those wheels was square, and the other one was about to fall off. It was quite a job getting him up there. And so I'd like to volunteer and like to help people out, but I'm not going to do that again. Next time I'll tie a rope to him and drag him with my car or something. No, I wouldn't do that. So now, on to the big one here, banking. People write to me once in a while, and we talk about banking. I've purposely tried to avoid this topic because it's complex. Okay, it's complex, it's complicated here in Ecuador. My main concern is FDIC insurance, like we have in the United States. You know, the sad news about insurance for your money here in Ecuador is that you only get $32,000 worth of coverage for your money that's invested in your banks here in Ecuador. Okay, not 250,000 or whatever it is by FDIC in the States. It's not much money. Okay, but that's $32,000 per account per sector. Okay, now I know a lot of people are already getting cross-eyed and dizzy trying to figure out what the hell you're talking about, Don. It's like, so let me explain it. Okay, there's 3 banking sectors here in Ecuador. All right, there's the private banking sector, there's the public banking sector, and then there's the cooperativa sector. That's the savings and credit cooperativas. We commonly call them credit unions. Okay, the key features. Now I'm not going to read this whole document. It's like 5 pages here, but if you're serious about coming here and you want to invest in CDs, or you want to buy, well, that's the main thing you'll do is invest in CDs. I get 9% on my money that I have in the CDs at JET. I don't mind telling you. I'm not going to tell you how much money I got there, but I get 9%. But anyway, let me explain this. The private banking sector, this sector includes commercial banks and financial institutions that provide a range of services to individuals and businesses. These banks operate under regulations set by Ecuador's superintendents of banks and offer services like savings accounts, checking accounts, loans, credit cards, and investment products. Okay? They operate for profit. They provide personal and business financial services. They offer online banking and international transfers. An example, there's 3 banks. I asked, what banks are in each one that are the main ones. The 3 examples I got was Banco Pichincha. That's the largest private bank in Ecuador. Banco del Pacifico, and then Prado Banco. Okay, those are the 3 most popular banks that are in the private banking sector. In the public banking sector, that includes state-owned financial institutions that focus on social and economic development. These banks typically provide services that align with government initiatives such as financial infrastructure projects, offering low-interest loans for small businesses and supporting agriculture programs. Key features: government-owned and operated, prioritizes public welfare and economic development, provides specialized loans such as housing and agriculture. An example of those banks these are good ones here. Banco del Instituto Ecuatoriano de Seguridad Social. That's BIESS. Focuses on providing loans to members of the Social Security system. Then there's Banco de Desarrollo del Ecuador, BDE, finances infrastructure projects in local governments. Okay? And then the third one, boy, some of these are just so much fun. Cooperative sector, savings and credit cooperatives. This sector consists of member-owned financial cooperatives providing community-based financial services. These institutions are vital for financial inclusion in rural and underserved areas. They offer savings accounts, microloans, and basic financial products. Their key features are member-owned and not-for-profit. They focus on community-based financial services. They support financial inclusion for rural areas. Example of these banks is Cooperativa de Ahorro y Crédito Jardín Azuayo. Azuayo. You go ahead and pronounce that, okay? And then the other one is the Cooperativa Policia Nacional, and then of course the other one is JEP. Okay, JEP is the one that I went to and still bank there, and never had any problems with them at all. So the next one I wanted the most well-known banks in each sector of Ecuador's system. In the private sector, I've already kind of covered this, is in the private sector, it's Banco Pichincha, Banco del Pacifico, Prado Banco, Banco Guayaquil, and Banco Bolivariano. Okay? In the public banking, it's the same ones I mentioned a minute ago. They're ones that long. And then, of course, the cooperative banking, that's the credit unions. JEP is my main one there, but they're the other one, the Policia Nacional. You hear a lot about that place here. They're kind of known for paying a little bit more on CDs than JEP pays, okay? So then here's a common question, okay? This is where it gets juicy, folks. What is the policy for insurance protection from COSIDI? I've been told that coverage is provided for account holders on a per bank, per sector basis only. So here's the answer. COSIDI, which stands for Corporación del Seguro de Depósitos, Fondo de Liquidez and Fondo de Seguros Providos. It's Ecuador's deposit insurance company. Just remember COSIDI, just like you see here, COSEDE. Okay? Now, the key policies for COSIDI deposit insurance. The maximum amount is $32,000 per account holder, per financial institution, per sector. Okay? You understand what I'm saying? So if you go and you go to 3 of the credit unions here and you put $50,000 in each one of them, you're only going to get coverage on one of those. You have to break it up. There's a little bit more to that in just a minute, I'm going to tell you, but you have to break it up. If you have multiple accounts within the same bank, the total insured balance is still capped at $32,000. So here's the coverage per sector, okay? COSIDI insures accounts separately for each of the financial sectors, private banks, public banks, and the savings and credit cooperatives. This means that if you had deposits in a private bank, a public bank, and a cooperative, each deposit is insured separately up to $32,000 limit. Okay? The types of accounts that are covered are savings accounts, checking accounts, time deposits, that's CDs, and other demand deposit accounts. Exclusions from coverage: deposits in offshore banks or institutions not regulated by Ecuador's financial blah, blah, blah. Now, how the payout works: if a bank fails, COSIDI will compensate depositors up to $32,000 per institution per sector within a set time frame, usually within weeks after the bank's closure. So now here's some example scenario, okay? Let's say you have $50,000 in Banco Pichincha, all right? You get $32,000 insurance on that account. You take it, say you have another $20,000 and you put that in Bank Ecuador, a public bank. The Banco Pichincha is a private bank. Then you go to public bank, you're fully insured, $32,000. Then say you put $40,000 in a cooperative, all right? It's cooperativa. I'd say JEP. You get $32,000. To maximize your deposit protection under COSIDI, you can strategically distribute your funds across different banks and financial sectors. Here's how. Number 1, spread deposits across different banks within each sector. All right? Since COSIDI covers deposits per institution per sector, you can protect more of your money by opening accounts in multiple banks within the same sector. Example of private banks: Banco Pichincha, $32,000, fully insured. Banco del Pacifico, $32,000, fully insured. Banco Guayaquil, $32,000, fully insured. 3 different banks, okay? 3 different banks in the private banks, okay? So your total insured amount would be $96,000, okay? Example for public banks like Ban Ecuador, you have $32,000 coverage in there. Then the BIESS Social Security Bank, $32,000, fully insured. So same thing with cooperativas. You can go to 3 different cooperativas. You can get fully insured for each one of those, a total of $96,000. So the diversity across different sectors. Since each sector, private, public, and cooperativas, is insured separately, you can protect even more by spreading funds across all 3. So let's say you have $100,000 to protect. You could allocate $32,000 in Banco Pichincha, private bank, $32,000 in Ban Ecuador, a public bank, $32,000 in a cooperativa, and the remaining $4,000 in any additional institutions. This way, all the funds are fully insured. So consider opening accounts in family members' names. Here's something I didn't know about. If you need to protect more than $32,000 in a single institution, you can split deposits across family member accounts. For example, you have $32,000 in Bank of Pichincha and your spouse has $32,000 in Bank of Pichincha. That increases your protection to $64,000. Use different types of accounts cautiously. It says COSIDI does not provide additional coverage for having multiple accounts in the same bank. If you have $20,000 in a savings account, $20,000 in a certificate of deposit, your total insured amount is still $32,000 in that bank. Okay, so by following these strategies, you can maximize protection while maintaining access to your funds. Okay, that's it. I know there's going to be lots of questions. People are going to be asking me a lot of questions. I'm going to do the best I can to answer. Do like I do, folks. Get onto this Chat GPT bandwagon and start doing your own research too. You can get these PDFs from me, and then you can feed off of these and ask additional questions to your favorite Chat GPT engine. I know there are a lot of people in my audience that are 65 and older that don't want to get involved or don't want to engage technology and don't want to get involved in Chat GPT. So if you have questions about any of this stuff, feel free to write to me. I won't be too hard on you, and I'll help you out the best I can. Okay, so that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I hope I answered, or I hope I provided some useful information. Okay, see you on the next one. Ciao, ciao.